DMs, what are your favorite ways to mess with your players' heads? I checked the chest for traps. I rolled a 12. You don't find any. I once just had a dog show up on a hill overlooking their camp, and they just lost it. Thought I was gonna kill the dog. I'm not a monster. Come on, I have standards. Some of my players tend to read the monsters in our campaign, so I always add whatever the fuck ability I need them to have to mess with them. Usually when they say, "That monster doesn't have X," that's my cue. We play on Roll20 and I love randomly measuring stuff. Just start playing with a 20-foot circle, or measure how far apart two players are. Even if it has no bearing on what you're actually going to do, it's an easy way to mess with them. My players mess with their own heads. I can straight up tell them the chest isn't trapped and they'll assume the gold inside must be coated in poison. A rogue in my party wanted to go off thieving, shock and awe. Part of the loot they stole was a hand-drawn map with an X on it. Written on the map was, "Treasure beyond your wildest imagination." Then, below it, in different handwriting, was written, "Extremely dangerous, do not approach." And whenever they look at the map, I make them roll a wisdom saving throw. And if they get below a 15, I just say, "It's watching you." It's like the creepiest episode of Dora the Explorer. Saying running is always a valid option, at least once per session. Then, about 10 sessions in, they get placed in a room with a boss who is just above their recommended CR level, and their only way out is destroyed or blocked. And I put on the most sinister smile I can and say, "Oh, and this time, running is not an option." Done this 3 times and the facial expressions on my players' faces are always priceless. I haven't gotten to do that yet, but I saw someone post here to text everyone in the party separately. You are not the doppelganger. One of my favorite subtle things to do as a DM is to make a friendly NPC provide incorrect information. They're not lying, they just think they're telling the truth. They were just mistaken. I have found that when a player comes across an NPC that's not lying via insight or otherwise, the party just accepts this news as gospel. A poorly informed NPC keeps the players on their toes. Give them normal everyday information. I find that I often don't need to engineer these moments. My players were convinced that a completely beloved, benevolent figure was mind-controlling their people and using them as slaves. I never implied any of that. All NPCs responded truthfully to questioning and said they were fine. I just gave them facts, and their takeaway was the exact opposite. All my players are the paranoid player, which makes sense. We became friends in a fandom circle where I was known for angst fix. So, all I have to do is cheerfully ask a question. Do you sit down? What's your sister's name again? Who's holding the thing? And they start scrambling. It's a delight. My party of good aligned characters were murder hoboing pretty hard at the start of the campaign. So, as they are low-key torturing a sailor who was taken prisoner by pirates, they assumed he was a pirate, never found the captain's journal talking about taking on prisoners, and every time he said he wasn't a pirate, they assumed he was lying and just doubled down. Ah, my little psychopaths. So, as they were interrogating him, I made a goblet covered in screaming faces appear in the middle of the group, and said that as they looked at it, 5 drops of blood, 5 party members, the blood won't pour out of the goblet, and every time they end up doing something hardcore against their alignment or overly cruel or evil, another drop audibly fills the goblet. After a little testing, they figured out that last part, and now they police themselves. They've latched onto it pretty hard and are loving it as a storyline. When I did it, I had no plan other than get them to stop committing a war crime against this innocent sailor. And now, I've written a full arc that includes a devil very interested in collecting their souls, and sent them the goblet as a warning and a challenge. Go ahead, have a visual measure of your darkest desires and most callous acts. I'll see you soon. They are up to 18 drops of blood, and it will be full at 50. How can they be good aligned with 18 drops of blood? If I ever want to genuinely distract the party and mentally disarm them, I'll introduce an animal wearing people clothes. This has the dual effect of lowering their guard and focusing their attention in one direction. Their brain just melts when they see an animal in a silly hat. Not mine, but I think my favorite example of this was a woman who was DMing for their table, an official module none of them had played before. But the only change she made was that she swapped the presented gender of every NPC character, which led to the vast majority of NPCs being women and the players growing increasingly paranoid that there was some conspiracy going on because, where are all the men? After investigating the chest for traps, you find nothing unusual, but when you touched it, you thought for a split second that the lid of the chest moved. Without you touching it, by the way. It isn't a mimic, just me being an ass and making them think they are in a mimic hive. I'll also make sure to say the length when they do detect spells. Sometimes I roll randomly. If it's in person, I bring extra minis or amazing looking guys, they won't be involved at all. But honestly, my players do it to themselves more than I do. Literally started off a campaign, let them go to a room that has a chest that has a nice turn for each character. They did amazing backstories and Session 0 was perfect and we all enjoyed it. So, it was literally an offering from the gods. They spent over an hour trying to detect traps, disarm traps, detect magic, everything. They even shot it with an arrow to see if it was a mimic, and then left it there because they couldn't figure out the trap or the puzzle. They even talked to me after the game saying they loved it, minus the undetectable trap. It wasn't a trap. It was just loot. I really want to know the players' reactions to that. I DM for my roommates and I don't have a lot of monsters yet. Sometimes before a session I buy a big, scary-looking mini and make a big show of painting it, telling them not to look at my workbench in the garage. They will. Then putting it in the cabinet when it's done. I just wanted it for my collection. Something I want to try eventually is to give my players an item like, when you die, you rewind in time X amount. Then this item is destroyed. Then, before a big fight, I just say, well, the item broke, aka they died and rewound, just to increase the tension. Here's an oldie, but always a goodie. Ask for a perception check and then say, you don't seem to notice anything out of the ordinary. Always puts them on guard, unless they get like a crit. I was writing entities on an initiative tracker, just murmuring to myself, character here, character there, and there, and done. And one of the kids pointed at the board, where there were 3 monsters and said, there's a secret 4th monster hiding somewhere. Your dad counted 4 monsters out. The next time, I provided numbers for the monsters. Specifically, they encountered crocodiles 1, 2, and 4. It's an old trick, but there's a reason it's a classic. Really messed them up for a minute. That's one old prank, man. I love that. The party has been traveling through a very dangerous section of forest, which is the ranger's favorite terrain. He keeps using primeval awareness, and I keep telling him, you sense Fae within 6 miles of you, and they keep freaking out. One of their party members is a changeling. The entire party knows this already. Nobody has caught on yet, and the Fae they are sensing is right next to them, including the changeling player. I'm not even subtle about it anymore. I had to remind them that they were a Fae because a spell cast on them only targeted humanoids. Last week, I threw an encounter with a hag at them. They thought the hag had been following them, and when the ranger used primeval awareness, the next day, they spent half the session looking for the hag that somehow escaped death because there were still Fae within 6 miles. This week, he's going to sense both Fae and Draconic, and I predict they will lose their shit. I add a little foreshadowing for story beats that they haven't reached yet. A wolf pack watching them from a distance, a tavern full of bar patrons that get quiet when they walk in, a hooded figure bumping their shoulder and then running away. Once in a while, I'll throw in a cryptic dream sequence during a long rest. Oh, it keeps them paranoid. Can I roll an insight check? Yeah, sure. 21. You notice how awkwardly Lady is smiling. They were looking for a hag, by the way, and were suspecting old tea house lady until her bitter execution. Still, she made a good banshee after that. At least the hag was happy. Literally just confirming anything that they want to do. My players are so paranoid of me just because of one time I introduced an innocuous pond that almost ripped the warlock's soul right from their body after they touched the water. I call it monster design by rumor mill. If a player starts loudly declaring that there's a creature, usually nearby, but that's not strictly needed, that does X thing, I roll a d20. And on an 11+, oh, it's true, baby. I don't tell the players why I'm rolling. I don't tell them when they're right. I definitely don't tell them that I didn't actually have a monster encounter planned for them. So far, my players have built a massive 3 to 5 meter tall, weighing up to 300 kilograms Wendigo with laser eyes, the ability to dodge bullets, heavy armor, and the ability to survive the vacuum of space for weeks at a time. Don't worry, this was a Traveler 2nd Edition game. They also created the Displacer Tree, a carnivorous tree that uses the same abilities as the Displacer Cat to create the illusion that there's a safe pass through forests. I love that to pieces. Big fan of just rolling dice seemingly out of nowhere. Sometimes I have a reason for it, sometimes I don't. Either way, I do it enough times where it matters to keep them on edge. I do that same thing. Another thing I do, and this may be a bit mean, but I know I'm not the only one who has made this mistake. Sometimes my brain gets ahead of itself and I will accidentally reveal a name or secret and instantly realize what I have done. Or I have just made a mistake while thinking about something else, adding incorrect details to something. But since I misspoke, they think what I said has to be true. So what I've started doing is misspeaking on purpose. And this is rare, not a normal thing. It just makes it believable when I say, don't take that seriously, I didn't mean it. Now they don't know what to believe when I misspeak because 90% of the time I mean it when I said it wasn't real. Don't take it seriously. My players killed the leader of a reoccurring mini-boss group without the leader getting an opportunity to show off any of her abilities. Since then, I keep accidentally using the present tense when talking about her outside of sessions to seed the idea that she might have somehow survived. Oh, don't worry, she's dead for real, but I want just enough doubt for when they meet her vengeful illusionist friend in a few sessions' time. The NPCs have not read the monster manual or bestiary and are wildly inconsistent with their ability to identify a creature. A giant ate the town rat! Okay, we're off to fight a giant. Wait, we've messed this up before. What did the giant look like? Oh, he was hairy with a pig face and big long claws. Really ugly giant. Troll hunting it is. Because they made the mistake of not doing their reading several times before and walked into a monster they weren't prepared for. I find consistency is a great way to do it. Example, checking for traps. Rolling low is you don't find anything suspicious, and the exact same way a high roll where there are no traps is you don't find anything suspicious. It drives them crazy because once you've played with them for a while, they can't infer anything from how you respond when they low roll. Another way is making them roll in a way only you can see the result for, something like stealth in an extremely tense moment. That way, the in-character tension is held out of character since they can't tell if they are being sneaky enough or not. Hey everyone, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and let us know in the comments below. DMs, what are some of your favorite ways to mess with your players' heads? And if you ever want to mess with our heads, join our membership program. You get early access to videos, and you can keep the AC on this summer. We love you all. Please be safe, happy, and healthy. Toodaloo.